While with the lady of our dreams, I had a vision of myself being a spreading candlestick with 13 candles. Over each flame was the opening of a tube which could hold water as a fountain. These tubes met the flame in a throbbing vibration which became almost excruciating when suddenly the part of the candlestick above the stem or staff broke off and became a crown. The crown floated in the air, tilted at a slight angle, and a circle, which was a halo, came down from heaven and dropped into the crown. In the center a wand came, and then it all hovered above the candlestick with a veil around it. The veil, in some ways, appeared as rays of light. After I told this vision, Therion talked a long while about the number 93, how adepts were tested when they brought messages, and how messages had been sent to him through the Scarlet Woman. I had another vision of myself being 13 naked women lying in a row and all being caressed at one time. When I told this to T in a somewhat indirect manner, he suggested that I see if I could get any messages through visions or otherwise. I began by asking for a vision containing a message. I first heard gurgling water and saw a dark farmhouse in among trees and green fields. The house and other things disappeared, and a dark yoni appeared, just where the house had stood. I then asked, "Where will a message come from?" Immediately soldiers with guns appeared lounging about the place, and a king on a throne where the house had stood. I then asked again for a message, and saw an egg in which were many, many tiny convolutions of some flesh-like substance which would form something. The egg was placed in an oblong as in a picture. Around it were clouds, trees, mountains, and water, called the four elements. A camel appeared in front of the whole picture. I next tried to find out who the king was. He looked more like Professor Shotwell than anyone else. That is, he was simple, democratic, and very learned and fine. He was certainly not a king belonging to any kingdom limited by a country's borders, but was a king of men, or a king of the world. I asked his name, and the word ham appeared between the egg and the oblong, and the soldiers around the king. King of Egypt? The king went out to one side, and a wizard linked his arm in the king's as they disappeared. The wizard looked at me significantly as they left. It was a sort of look as if one would almost wink. He was an old man with gray beard, dressed in a long black gown. He was infinitely wise. They seemed to go to a cave in the base of a low mountain on the shore of a large body of water. A spring of sparkling cool water bubbled up through a barrel near the mouth of the cave. I went into the cave and saw them doing something mysterious with a revolver. The wizard had the revolver. What they were going to do was a joke of some kind, and the wizard looked grim about it. At T's suggestion, I went up to them and said, "I am Eve." This seemed to stop everything. They both disappeared with the cave. Very soon I saw the king sitting in a niche, covered with a canopy, cut in the side of the mountain. In quite another place the wizard was sitting under a tree, fanning himself. At T's suggestion, I went up to him and asked him his name. I became very frightened and had the same sensation as when I spoke to him in the cave. It was a kind of shyness and awe. He only smiled at me and would not speak. It seemed that I did not know enough for him to speak with me. In order for him to say anything to me, I should have to build a fire of sticks, which he showed me how to do. There was a baby in some way connected with the act of my building the fire, which was like a ritual. Then a most beautiful lion was standing by the fire. The wizard was standing and still held 1 or 2 sticks in his hand. He smiled and said, "Child." I then saw a most beautiful naked boy, 5 or 6 years old, dancing and playing in the woods in front of us. T asked how he would look dressed, and when I saw him in conventional clothes, he looked very uncomfortable and repressed. He looked as if he should be dressed in skins, such as tigers. To one side near the place where I made the fire was a large turtle standing up as a penguin stands. The wizard was very happy and satisfied looking. He sat down and reached out his hand to me and had me sit down beside him. As he watched the boy, he put his left arm around me tenderly and placed my head on the left side of his chest near the shoulder. He said, "It's all in the egg." The end.